Welcome to Shielded Voices, the podcast where we break the stigma, build resilience, and support the men and women who serve our communities. I'm Mitch, a dedicated law enforcement professional with over 8 years of full-time experience and a combined 15 years of experience in law enforcement. My journey began as a police cadet, a reserve police officer, and now I am a full-time deputy. I am a defensive tactics instructor, an emergency vehicle operations instructor, and a former drug recognition expert. Now, I'm here to share the conversations that matter the most.
And I'm Brian, a deputy with over 15 years of service. I bring my experience as a defensive tactics instructor, emergency vehicle operations instructor, field training officer, a member of the riot team, as well as the narcotics team as a liaison. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army, and I am passionate about faith, family, and supporting our brothers and sisters in law enforcement.
Together, we're here to share stories, insights, and real talk about the challenges and triumphs of life in law enforcement. Whether it's breaking down the barriers around mental health, reflecting on our own shared experiences, or providing tools for growth and recovery, we're here to have the conversations that matter.
Our goal is simple: to support first responders, foster open communication, and remind everyone in this community that they are never alone. This is a space for growth, connection, and building stronger voices together.
Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into today's episode where we continue to break the silence. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Angela, the co-founder and executive director of the SIREN Project. Angela, along with her co-founder, brings nearly 40 years of combined experience in emergency services, including fire, EMS, and search and rescue. As a retired firefighter, she has seen firsthand the immense mental health challenges that first responders face. Over the years, Angela and her team have personally felt the weight of these struggles, losing friends and family members to PTSD and depression. After navigating their own mental health journeys, they knew something had to change. That's why they founded the SIREN Project, an organization dedicated to providing first responders with access to alternative mental health therapies, including psychedelic treatments. Their mission extends beyond treatment, focusing on education and advocating for legal reforms to ensure these therapies are accessible to all who need them. Today, we're diving into this groundbreaking approach to mental health, the research behind psychedelic therapy, and why it could be a life-saving option for first responders battling trauma. Angela, welcome to Shielded Voices.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be good. We've been trying to do this for some time, but there's been some technical issues. And for those of you that know Angela, we've only met her once, but if there's technical issues, she's much like me. There's a lot of filth and foul that flies because we have to do computers. So
I'm fine with electronics when they're on fire. The rest of
right.
I really don't love them so much. Which is funny because the hazmat spec, we had all these computers and monitors and stuff.
Right. They used to do in briefings when I worked at the sheriff's office, they had what was called Brian Rogers Monday, because every Monday after being gone for a few days, you got to reboot the computer, and me and technology, and I'm just filth and foul and punching buttons. And they literally got their phones just in the corner recording me laughing. They called it Brian Rogers Monday. Whatever, as long as I could be the joke.
The systems, I got an Apple that doesn't work with the, Safari. So that would it's just a whole, you're right next to each other on my screen, just talk to each other.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
we got it figured out with Mitch's technical expertise. You guys were able to get it figured out. So let's do this. Let's start off with I'd like to hear kind of some of your past. You're a retired firefighter, if I'm not mistaken, and what can you maybe give us a Reader's Digest version of your childhood growing up, or you come from a firefighter family, or how did that all start?
Oh, not at all. My dad was a mechanic till I was about 10. My mom's an RDA for dentistry. Dad got hired with Chevron Oil Refinery when I was 10, so he was an oil refinery worker. So I was used to shift work as a concept. Out of high school, out of college, I went to college on a softball scholarship, Division I to Texas. Played a year of pro. Was going to join the Army to be a helicopter pilot, and then I sustained an injury that they decided made me medically disqualified to fly. So I had to figure out what I was doing from then on. Coached softball for a while since that was my only real life skill. So coached pitching. And then one of my students' dads, however you say that correctly, said you should try the fire service. I think you'd be great. So I tried it, got hired on, and the rest is history. I'm now a firefighter.
And what's that hiring process like down there? Is it because I know up here you're looking, it's like by the time you apply, I'm guessing it's the same, Mitch, for firefighters it is for cops. It takes about a year or so.
Maybe mine might have taken more just because. So you have to have the basic requirements, right? High school diploma, driver's license, all that. But everyone has that, and that doesn't make you special. So then you have to take a written test. And when I took my written test, I want to say there was like a couple thousand people, maybe as much as 4,000 people who took the written test. And from that, everyone who passed was then put into a lottery and drawn. And I didn't make the first lottery of interviews, but I made the second lottery of interviews. So from the time I took the written test till I was in academy was about 14 months. It was a little over a year to get into academy after taking my first written test.
Okay.
So that worked out kind of nice.
And that fire academy's no joke from what I hear. I mean, not only just physically, but the test, the written tests and stuff like that. I hear it's pretty intense.
The written wasn't that hard. I mean, there's basic math, grammar, mechanical aptitude.
Yeah, like I said, that's very intense. Yeah, I'm a cop for a reason, right?
All that legal jargon, this, that, and the other, I would struggle with. But no, so I did that. I'm pretty mechanical, so that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
But in academy was probably the most stressed I've ever been. It was 18 weeks, and it didn't count towards PERS. I think that's illegal now. So even though I started in September, my legal hire date was until December. So that was
interesting.
Fun. It was weird. So that didn't count towards my PERS, which sucked, but whatever. The academy was, I mean, I would like to say I'm pretty good under pressure. I mean, I played Division I in professional softball as a pitcher. I've, thrown a ball 70 miles an hour in front of 2,000, 3,000 people.
Right.
But yet in academy, that was the most stressed I'd ever been, mostly because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't make this, I'm going to lose this 6-figure income job.
Yeah.
It was stressful. Me and the other female that were in the academy, she didn't make it through. And I remember being pulled aside by another firefighter, she and I both, and told, you guys are in a fishbowl. Everyone's watching you two, expecting you to fail. You have to be better. You can't complain. You have to suck it up. I was
I think there's something to be said. Like I'm glomming onto what you said, like you and the other female. So there was just 2 females in this whole recruit academy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's even more shocking is I was my department has about 215 line personnel, not counting A staff and whoever goes in the office, approximately 215 line personnel. And I think when I left, we had 12 women. And at one point I was the most junior female for almost a decade to make it off probation. All the other females that were hired behind me didn't make it off probation. So almost a decade between me and the next one. And we're not like a little department with 3 stations. We have 15 stations and over 2 people. It was disappointing. But on the other hand, I don't want someone pushed through just to meet a quota.
Amen. Yeah.
To make it. And I've never been the one that's like, we need more women. No, I want more capable beings.
Yes.
I want people to apply who want to be here and who are capable of being here.
Yeah.
And that just means maybe the people who've applied aren't capable, and we aren't recruiting the right people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it is. I mean, it's stating the obvious, right? Firefighting, law enforcement is a predominantly male profession. It is.
Mm-hmm. And it will always be.
What's that?
It will always be. And I think that's okay because, and this is not politically correct. They don't really care.
Right.
I'm probably stronger than 95% of women on the planet. And I will tell you that there might be 2 guys in my department I can beat in an arm wrestle. Like it or not, testosterone matters.
It does.
It does make for better recovery after injuries. It makes for more muscle mass. And that's a really important part of the job, is being capable of doing it. That's not to say that, hey, any woman could, you want to do this job, you got to get the right mechanics. You also have to be smart. Like there's other things that I can do. I am not going to be the go-to person to go breach that FBI security door because the evidence room was on fire. We had a very large person to do that. Right. I'm our guy that's going to be like, hey, we have this chemical over here. How about we don't put water on it?
Right. Well, I mean, it's physics are real. Right. Like I don't know your stature and size. I'm 200 pounds. I'm fit. I'm I'm going to be the guy that goes through that door. If I'm working with a female that's 5'2", 125 pounds, it's physics. It's not I'm better, cooler, awesomer. It's just
she's
use
going to
your
go in the
brain.
app, and she's going to be great in the app.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. Like
The guy that breached this door was probably 240, 6'5", an ex-Olympic swimmer.
right. Yeah. Exactly. That's a big dude. Like that's
Big dude.
yeah. I'm not a big dude. I am not. I'm an average size guy. Make no mistake. But I think there's something to be said about that. As far as it's physics. That's all it is. It's physics. Nothing wrong with that. So you come out of fire academy. What's that like? Oh, you're a probie for how long does that last?
We were probies in my department for 18 months
Okay.
afterwards. Again, other departments count academy. We did not count academy, but my department's special because we're all engineers. For a while, we stopped that and then decided we really like the model of everyone being able to drive. So because you have the added training of driving, they extend the probation. So it was 18 months of probation. My first line was Christmas Day, and I was at this, it's a dual house. We had an engine and a truck, and normally we have 3 on an engine, 4 on a truck. And because it was Christmas Day, they did not displace the people that we were supposed to replace for our module of 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we had me and another probie at the station. So we had 5 on the truck, 4 on the engine. And that meant I had to sleep in the weight room because we weren't comfortable with everybody like sharing the Murphy bed dorms, and
right.
they were not comfortable sharing. So I remember my first night online Christmas Day, and I'm on a mattress in the weight room, and I was like, what am I going to do if the alarm doesn't go off in here? Like, I was just so paranoid that I wasn't know to get up because I was not in the right room.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. Wow. And what are you able to talk about? Because most people, I mean, unless they are firefighters, we always hear the antics that happen with probies. Is that still like a top secret thing like it is in the military, or the hazing and the fun stuff?
I think I don't remember anybody really praying. When you're the probie, yes, you're going to do most of the cleaning and you're going to get most of the shit job. And
sure,
there's some people that are absolutely like treat you different, and they wouldn't say good morning to me. They'd say good morning to my fellow probie who was a guy, but they wouldn't say good morning to me.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember being shocked about that. I was like, oh, this is really a thing. But I wouldn't say like my whole career was like that. I think when you're a probie, you're getting the short end of the stick, and that's just
sure
it is, because you need to earn your place.
Yeah.
I think other people got pranked more than me. I feel like people are afraid to do that to females because they're not sure how it'll end up. So once I got off probation, I had no problem throwing the softball, beach ball up in the air just to watch, just saying the wild color.
Right.
Or I'm like, can I respond to that? It was just lighten the mood. Like, I'm not going to file. I'll draw blood before I draw ink. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. I would say if there's one thing I've gathered just in the few minutes that we spoke last time, and Mitch and I have talked about it, like, I would not fuck with that woman. I'm not. You remember that conversation? Like,
nope. Stats.
Like, I'm a skilled dude. Nope, not gonna do it. So
I'm
okay,
6 foot tall, 100 none of your business pounds, so I can handle myself.
Yeah. Well, so you come off probation, which is, I mean, I'm sure just like any other, just like law enforcement, like, oh, thank God, okay, it's over. Like, probation's over. For it's like I can actually start and be part of this team, and everything is, I'm guessing, grand and amazing, and like this is the best thing in the world. And then decades later, you're like, what the fuck did I do? Like, what? Can you walk us through, like, and I ask everybody this kind of the same question, is and it's not everybody has it, but like early in your career, even if you were still a probie, was there kind of that one call early on that you were like, oh shit, like this is real, or I'm like, ooh, do I really want to do this? Or because I know I had that one call early on, and then of course there's hundreds and hundreds after that. But did you have anything like that early on?
Yes, kind of. So just trying to think. You see carnage and you see people who've died, and that never really bothered me. The trauma doesn't bother me. It's the people on the sidelines that I have a hard time with. So I would say early on, I think I had about 4 years on, and we got called for a woman who was dying. She had breast cancer. I think she was terminal. And we showed up and we started doing compressions, and my captain did not do his job. I'm doing compressions on the ground of this poor woman. Her husband is 6 inches away from me on the other side of her in tears. And her kids were just on the bed slightly behind that. And I understand, like, we want them to watch. We want them to see that everything has been done. So that it helps with their closure for sure. I need them out of my line of sight. I need to be able to work here.
Yeah.
And they're fine if they're in their room, but he was right there. And I have a hard time saying it every time, but he got down and he just said, just let her go. And I know it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. There wasn't blood, there wasn't trauma. But to see this man with his 2 little girls crying in the background, knowing he's about to lose his wife, who's been battling breast cancer, and just to see that, like, that was the hard part for me. The human part of it, just let her go. And I remember looking at my medic like, we can't. They didn't have a DNR. We'd already started. Like, legally, we couldn't. We had to keep going. And I'm like, the whole time in my mind, I'm like, am I traumatizing this poor family more? You know, giving them hope that we're going to bring her back or whatever. Just the way this man was just like, just let her go. And I remember thinking, fuck.
This is it.
Yeah,
That's
I don't do well with. Get away from me.
and I think that's a lot of the people that don't do this job. They don't think about that aspect of it. The trauma that cops and firefighters, like, I mean, I've given not as much as you, but I'm as a medic in the Army, but even as cops, I mean, CPR and Narcan and all the things until you guys get there that actually know what you're fucking doing, because we sure the hell don't. But it's that, I don't know if it's I don't call it vicarious trauma, but it's seeing that that is probably the most difficult part, I would say, is
you can't, like, I can't say empathize because I've never been there, but you can't not like feel for them. That's hard.
Yeah, like we get tasked with the death notifications. Oh my God, horrible. And not to mention, that's an interesting that you say that, you know, that you guys, like, you want the family to see so that you can see that you guys are doing everything you possibly can. But on the flip side too, having stood back and as the cop on scene and watching that, like, CPR is violent. It's violent. It's violent.
Ribs every time. And the first time you do CPR, it's really like, oh God, what?
Yep.
You feel them crack.
Yes. Oh, I know. There's several times. I mean, early on as an 18-year-old kid, I was doing that as a medic in the military, and it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that that fine line, right? You want that family to see that you guys are doing everything possible, but on the flip side, they're like, oh my God, stop. Like, it's violent. So I can't imagine that over the course of your whole career, repeatedly, over and over and over again. Like, the family's right there. The screaming from the I call it the primal wail of the family. So, and that was kind of early on in your career, you said?
I am about 4 years on.
Yeah.
On for that one. And I would say when I was little, I would say 2000, so maybe about 5-6 years on, you have those calls that you look back on, and it's not necessarily the blood or the gore or the graphicness of the call. It's hearing the family. And I remember we had this guy who was my age, and he'd slit his own throat, and every single laceration there was no hesitation marks. You could see the full trachea. And I remember coming around the corner into his room, trying to piece together what I was looking at, because all the blood had pooled next to kind of his hip area, but it had started coagulating. So I thought I was looking at intestines lying next to him. And I'm trying to figure out you're just trying to figure out what you're looking at, so I know what part of his body to go to help.
Right.
And he was breathing when we got there. And it's one of those calls you look back and you feel like we didn't do it right. Like, you feel like we didn't do it right. And because he was breathing when we got there, and we put pressure on, and maybe he wouldn't have made it, but I just, without going into too much detail, there's just little things along the way, like, we should have done this.
Right.
And we didn't do all those things. And again, I remember standing on the gurney trying to do compressions as we're wheeling him out so I could keep going. And I told my medic, I'm like, I am just pumping the blood out of him. Like, I just feel like I'm pumping the blood out of him. And of course, his mom's screaming in the background. Like,
right.
The last time she saw him, like, he was breathing. So here I hear this mom screaming. And then his dad came to the fire station like a week or two later to thank us. And I'm thinking, we fucked it up. Like you're saying thank you. And in my mind, I'm like, we fucked it up.
We fucked it up.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, it's that. That's such heavy. That's such heavy. That's responsibility. I don't know what other word to use. That's such a heavy responsibility because you get there as that first responder, or we like to call you guys second responders because let's be honest, we have to make the scene safe. Let's come on.
There was a cop there for a second.
Of course there was. Yep. But I mean, I don't do the medical side. We don't do the medical side as cops do. Like we do the initial, but then now it's in your hands, and I can't even imagine that. I just can't. Like so much, and it's repeated over your entire career. I can't. I mean, I imagine there's been hundreds of lost lives over your career. I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine that.
I think we focus on like the trauma of the call, and that's what the cause of PTSI, I'm going to call it. So post-traumatic stress injury. Injury,
yep.
Not a disorder. Words for workman's comp, just FYI to everyone listening. It's an injury. It's not a disorder.
Yep.
And I think we think, oh, you see all this trauma. And it's true. When you look at the statistics as far as, for example, LA, when we just had the fires, and they're talking about how we didn't have enough firefighters, enough water, blah, blah, blah. And the stats were something like, I'm going to botch it, so don't quote these numbers, but the population has somewhat doubled in LA in that area in the last 20 years. They actually have 6 less fire stations. And that's kind of true everywhere. The populations have increased. We haven't necessarily increased rigs in stations or fire stations to compensate for the increase in population. So we are actually running more calls medically. And that feeds into, I'm going to go on a tangent and I'll try to bring it back. The studies for suicide, from the Firefighter Behavioral Alliance, they have statistics on suicide for firefighter because IAFF has not done a great job at tracking that and verifying them. And when you look at the numbers, it is 500% higher now than it was 20 years ago. And it's not a sudden gradual.
Wow.
I made a graph. I can show you guys because I'm visual. And I get a lot of people asking why. Anecdotally, I have only my opinion as far as admin not supporting the line, like we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think back in the day, chiefs were more bold as far as standing up for their people, and now it's more political.
Yep.
I think HR is too involved. You have crews that are afraid to do the razzing, the proby, whatever, off-color jokes that are not appropriate and are not PC. They help you bond. And when you're going through this stuff, it's important to have your team, your group of people that you've bonded with to lean on. And I don't think we have that anymore. I think we have more, there's a generational thing. Less people are signing up to be firefighters, but even the ones that are there, I don't think we're really bonding the way we used to. We don't have the cohesion. We don't have the support. We don't have the admin support, and we're running more medical calls. And what that means, not necessarily more exposure to trauma. Yes. It means more sleep deprivation. It means more exposure or potential exposure to carcinogens. If you're going more fires, the fires have more chemicals, are burning hotter and faster now. So now you're bombarding your system with more endocrine disruptors, less sleep, more calls, more trauma. So I think there's a compilation of many factors here, both physical, biological, psychological, all coming together. And that messes anyone who's, had hormonal issues or been around someone with hormonal issues. They play a huge part in how you feel and how your immune system works. So I think it's multifaceted when we talk about suicides and why they're going up. Again, I have zero, and I don't have a full study to prove any of that. That's my
What did you in your career, Angela? Did you see a shift? Because I've often thought about that too as a cop. Like, what happened to the days when, your title is a firefighter. Let's be honest. I know up here there's not many fires being fought. There just isn't. Aside from the woodland fires, right? That's a whole separate thing. But structure fires, I can tell you in my 16 years, maybe a dozen that I've been in my career as a cop assisting. So was there a shift where firefighter, have you always been responsible for responding to medical calls, or was there a shift?
No, there was an absolute shift. So I would say statistically now you're about 3% fire calls and about 75-80% medical calls roughly. And the rest is going to be, service aids or auto accidents, whatever. And I'd say there's a big shift because I think back in the 60s, I think it was the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
that Santa Clara County specifically brought in the medic unit. We were realizing that fires were less prevalent and we needed to justify our existence and keep our jobs. So we
Okay.
shifted over and started doing medical aid. And that's about when we took on more medical calls. We started responding to that. And I remember some of the older guys when I got hired talking about how they would go door to door with flyers to tell people, hey, if you have an emergency, call 911. It wasn't
Really?
known. Like they had to go out and advertise to people that
Oh, wow.
emergency, call 911.
Hmm.
And I think they were informing people, hey, we're not just fire now. We're like, hey, if you have a heart attack or if you have X, Y, and Z. I think there were a lot more fires back in the day. I think there's a lot more safety mechanisms in place to prevent fires
Sure.
that we didn't have back in the day. But that being said, fires burn hotter and faster now when they do.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, so then throughout your career, was there, I mean, obviously there's so much that comes into play with obviously being a female firefighter in this industry. And I can't imagine the shit you had to deal with, probably even administratively, if I had to guess. And this is pure speculation on my part. And I don't know if you're willing to talk about that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying specifically, I'm sure there were times because you are female. And I can honestly say I've never witnessed that in our agency. I'm sure it's happened, but we were kind of talking prior to jumping on recording about like how we don't feel supported by our administration. And I still, there's so many concepts out there all over LinkedIn, all over everything. And I keep seeing all these ideas and thoughts, and it's like, okay, but when does it change? What is it going to take? And I don't know if did you experience that in your career as well? Like there's no support from the admin because they're afraid of political whatever, as well as I guess a fourfold question. Like, did you experience like harassment issues or anything, promotional issues, anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot to answer there. So I would say, give me a second. I took the Adderall today, so we should be good.
Yeah.
I did not always feel supported by fellow firefighters. I wouldn't say I was so closely associated with admin to feel supported or not supported. But that's not true. There's other aspects, but I'll get into that later. I would say that, for example, when I started this nonprofit and we exist as the SIREN Project to help first responders. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, psychedelic therapy or entheogenics is not for everyone. However, having been an individual that ran the gamut of everything out there possible, and you're looking at what do I do now when I'm this bad and I've tried everything, that's a really dark place to be.
Yeah.
So we happen to know somebody who connected us with the therapy, and I'll get into that later. And I was able to go and do it. It was very expensive. It was very hard to find a trustworthy provider. And after I did it and realized how life-changing this was, it was ridiculous to me that it was so hard. I had to know the right people through the right people. And it was expensive. And I just thought, with all the friends and family that I've lost to suicide, this could have saved them. And that made me angry. It made me angry that this is here and known and it's not accessible. Yeah. And I tried to bring that to my own department. And the fact that I was shut down, not only shut down, but then they drew up a letter to say, we don't condone this behavior. And my first thought is, what the fuck? You have people in your department that I know of that have confided in me, that have had a gun rattling around in their mouth. And you're telling me right now that you're going to make them feel like their job is at risk because they're seeking mental therapy. Who the fuck are you? Like, I was so mad, pardon my mouth, but I'm beside myself that our union president, and I'm going to go ahead and name it, he didn't have the spine to stand up for the people in his department. He clearly has no idea how bad off so many of them are, that he's not supporting them in their quest to find anything to help themselves feel better, to keep making their own life. Anyone in charge, your first priority should be, you know what? I did a little research. There's a lot of science on this to say that and we're going to support you even if it's not legal, because it's going to make you a better father. It's going to make you a better husband, and it's going to keep you alive. And do you really want that person responding to you on your worst day?
Right.
You want them showing up on your mom when she's having her worst day
Nope.
the night before they were contemplating eating a bullet?
Mm-hmm.
It is infuriating to me that these people are so ignorant or so scared that they're not willing to take a stand and do what's right and help their people no matter the cost.
And I think you nailed it. It's fear. In my opinion, it's fear. We've talked about that even on our side of the house, from the deputy or officer all the way up to the boss. It's fear because of I don't know what. And for me, I wasn't afraid. Fuck you. I will stand in truth and integrity all day long, even if you're going to fire me for it. Fuck off. And I'm talking about in general, not the agency I work for, right? Just in life. And I agree with you. It's fear, but okay. Well, the definition of courage is fear and pushing through it. Have some fucking courage.
Yeah.
And these are your people. Like, not only that, they're going to be better on the job. They're going to cost the taxpayer less money because they're not constantly calling out sick or, injuries or you name it.
Or whatever they're racking up on workman's comp.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Or
money.
Because we always like to overlook the mind-body connection. We know ulcers are caused by stress. Do you know how many other physical ailments are also caused from stress and depression? Are they off injured on their back injury? Or are they off hurt on their back injury?
Yeah.
Because of secondary issues from lack of sleep and stress and depression.
Yes.
Where do we hold most of our attention? On our shoulders and our back.
Yep.
It's right there. A lot of people who are out hurt, it's really just a side effect of being stressed and unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, and then again, you throw the interrupted circadian rhythm with all that, like, especially for fire, like, we could talk circadian rhythm for cops just because of shift work, but there's a difference in shift work, but then being woken up to go to a call, come back, go to sleep, wake up again to go to a call, come back, go to sleep, wake. I'm like, I couldn't do it because I'm a sleep whore. I'm a bitch when it comes. It's like, I am a little girl when it comes to my sleep. Don't interrupt my sleep. We're going to fucking fight. So I couldn't imagine what it is for you guys.
I will tell you though, I learned when the bell went off, because we have 90 seconds from the time the bell went off to the rig rolling out of
holy shit.
Up, you're dressed, you're in the rig, you're going 90 seconds. And I taught myself when the bell goes off, I'm like, take a second, figure out where you are, because I'd always roll the wrong way. Right?
Right.
Wrong dorm or with a different station.
Oh, I love it.
Or you come out of your dorm and you're like, I don't remember what station I'm at. I don't know which way the rig is. You just take a second and hopefully the other guy is like from that station. You're not both looking at each other like, where are we? Which way are we?
So I'm getting you guys didn't like, you worked different stations all the time.
Yeah. Well, and even if I worked on my own station, sometimes someone was in my dorm. It's like we share dorms. So I had to be in a different dorm, which isn't that big of a deal, but we worked different stations and all over. All over.
Interesting. So, okay. So going back to then, the pushback from the administration, was there, when you went to this administration, did you see you were still working there at the time when you went to the administration about all this?
Not legally retired. I was not officially retired, but I didn't go to the admin. I was going to our union. So it wasn't even
got it.
So, and I'm sure and I think that they were also formulating their own statement to not condone this type of treatment.
Sure.
Because I know that the chiefs of the county all got together and met, and they were very concerned after that article made the front page of the San Jose Mercury News.
Right.
So the chiefs were concerned, but I never went to the chiefs because I knew better. I went to our union and they were going to let me speak. And I told them, hey, I have this, nonprofit. We're helping first responders. They're going to let me speak. And I gave them the website. I thought they were clear on what I was doing. And then they canceled they wouldn't let me come and speak like I was supposed to after that came out. And then they were like, what a fucking pansy ass, grow us that.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's talk about then. I guess let's just dive into you kind of already touched on it, but Angela, what brought you to seek out, like, even prior to you founding the SIREN Project, what led you to that point? And then talk about, if you would, like, starting that and what that was like and where you're at now with it. I mean, it's going to be a long talk, but I guess what led you to, were you seeking that therapy for yourself initially?
Yes, that's how we found
Okay.
it. So I was a single mom from the time my son was born until he was about 5, when my husband came into our lives and made things a little easier.
Hmm.
I've probably struggled with mental health for years. I don't think a lot of the things that started bothering me didn't happen until I had my son. Like I didn't start having the nightmares and the panic attacks of things happening until I had my son. It was really interesting to see that change. And with some of that hormonal postpartum, I don't know how all that works, but
Sure.
it absolutely changed my perspective of things, and it escalated any mental health issues that I had before, if only because one of my big symptoms was rage. I'd lose my temper and I'd get super angry. And when you're home alone with this precious little being and things are happening that little kids do, and you're losing your temper and you're getting mad, now you have this other effect of I'm ruining him. I'm not being a good mom. I'm ruining him. So now I'm afraid for him to get hurt. And then I'm also feeling like I'm the one that's hurting him. And I don't know how to stop it. And I'd gotten to a point where, you absolutely think about suicide because I call it mentally swearing. I never had a plan of like, this is what I'm going to do. But
Right.
it's more like for a moment when you think I'm just going to fucking do it, all that other stuff doesn't matter. It gives you a moment of not feeling the stress of all of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to do it. And it just gives you a moment to like kind of reset. I don't recommend it as a therapeutic.
Right. Yeah. Let's not role play that. Let's not. Yeah.
But it gave me a moment to reset if I could just not have to care about all of the stuff that was stressing me. And then I'd start playing through my mind, well, when it was really bad, well, I can't leave my son. I'm an only mom. I can't leave him behind. And then I thought, that means I have to take him with me because I can't leave him behind with a mom who killed himself, right? So you mentally start to go through that. And of course, immediately, like every cell in your body wants to puke. So cool. That means I can go to work tomorrow. Still sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Go to work tomorrow because taking my own life and bringing my son with me is a really bad idea today. So we're okay.
Wow. And you're I mean, you're just, and I'm guessing at this point, you're not immediately reaching out for help. You're because
no,
exactly. Right. Because
for help, I'm going to lose my son. I'm going to lose custody of my son. They're going to not let me work. Like all of the stuff that's going to happen. No, I can't hear anybody say she's not good. You know how many times I heard that? Like, maybe you're just not supposed to be online. Like maybe you're just maybe you're not tough enough.
Yeah.
Couldn't allow anyone to think I wasn't tough enough to be there. And yet I could park a ball on a dime at 70 miles an hour in front of 2,000, 3,000 people. I can handle pressure, but for some reason I'm not tough enough now.
Right. So I guess at what point then did something, well, obviously something changed. What changed, or at what point did you just finally be like, oh, fuck, I need help. Like I can't do this anymore. I need help. And how long did it last for you before you actually reached out and started getting help?
I would say he was about 18 months old when I started like, cool, let's just go to therapy. So I started going to therapy at Kaiser, paying for it myself, and going on SSRIs and just doing anything I could. I would try all the different types of therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy, processing therapy, EMDR, which is supposed to be the go-to for people with trauma. And it's super successful for a lot of people. However, many first responders develop this little coping mechanism called dissociation. You have to be able to hold on to that emotion to process it with EMDR. And my body just went, pink, turn it off.
Yep.
And then it didn't work. I remember just sitting in the room going numb. And I even paid $10,000 to go to Colorado for an EMDR intensive therapy that was like 4 or 5 days, where we just did it for hours on end. And I just sat there numb, and it wouldn't work. And through my husband in the dog training world, because he's a dog handler, he knows dog handlers through the military. So we actually, through a SEAL Team 6 guy who had gone through, and I'm like, well, this big tough guy, if he could do it, then, maybe I'm not for a week if I need this.
Right. Yeah.
Here's who you call. Here's who you need to go. Apparently the veteran community has been using these therapies for a decade. There's several nonprofits out there for veterans to receive this type of therapy. And so he hooked me up with somebody who could help me. And I flew myself down to San Diego and got smuggled across the border in a little van with a bunch of people I'd never met before to Tijuana and Rosarito, and did drugs. Mind you, I'm pretty square. Like I've never done drugs in my life. I don't smoke cigarettes. Like I might have a glass of wine twice a month. I'm just not that person. Oh, cool. Let's go do mushrooms with strangers in Mexico. That's where we are today.
And that's where we're going to leave it for now. A woman who had hit bottom, numb from trauma, desperate for something, anything, to feel again, gets in a van with strangers and crosses the border into the unknown. Not for a vacation, not to escape, but to heal. In part 2, Angela takes us inside that experience. What happened in Mexico, what it cracked open inside her, and how it ultimately led to the creation of the SIREN Project, a lifeline for first responders in pain. This story is just getting started. Don't miss it.